Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Take the Black Live, the only show on the internet that dares to discuss things like, dragons, Star Wars, space lasers, Game of Thrones, books, movies, TV, such things as this. I am Dan Selcke, editor of winnerscoming.net, here with Mia Johnson of dorkside.theforce.com. Mia, how are you? How has your last 7 days of your life been?
Oh my goodness, the last 7 days. It's been pretty fun. I know we had a lot of stuff to talk about, which I've been really excited for, but hey, it's snowing. It's almost time for the holidays, so I'm quite excited to wind down, the end of this year.
It is. And although, as always, it seems there's never a lack of stuff going on. You're right. There was a lot to talk about this week. At the end of last week, it's always the end of the week, which I find suspicious, frankly, because it's like, what are you trying to hide?
I
They
know.
dumped a ton of news, they being Disney, they being HBO, um, in a variety of mediums, and we're going to talk about a lot of it today. And I'm going to try to get your
Ooh.
guys' comments up there if you're watching.
There we go.
Starting with some of the big stuff. So I believe it was literally Friday, which again is like the weird Friday afternoon news slot of death, but they still put this in here.
Yeah.
HBO announced, made it official, several casting announcements for House of the Dragon, the HBO Game of Thrones prequel series set 100 plus years before the show. We talked about this before. We talked about there was a rumor that Matt Doctor Who Smith might be playing Daemon Targaryen, but it wasn't
Mhm.
confirmed. And I mean, that inspired a lot of discussion. And it ends up, long story short, it's happening. Matt Smith is Daemon Targaryen, who is a very pants, literally, because he's on a dragon, take no prisoners, loves sex and violence kind of wild child of a character. Mia,
Yes.
how do you find this
Oh my
news?
gosh.
Is this exciting you as a Doctor Who fan? Because I know that you are a fan of, I think Matt Smith, like specifically, you are into his Doctor.
Yeah, Matt Smith and David Tennant are like my top two. So it's exciting. I expressed this before. I was like, if they were to have like a, quote unquote big name in this, I think he's the guy for it. He's not so huge that it might feel distracting or anything like that. I think he's quite perfect for the series. Now, as you were telling me about the character, I had some reservations because Matt Smith is a nice guy. He don't hurt nobody.
Well, I
So
mean,
what's up with the character?
well, like, are you sure you're saying that he don't hurt nobody, or does the 11th Doctor not like
Okay.
do no harm kind of thing?
Yeah,
Like,
maybe. I,
I'm serious. Like, is that part of it, or do you think just he's not the right person because of his abilities?
yeah, I have to give him credit. He is a great actor. So it's
He
not
is
that
a
I
pretty good actor.
doubt, that he couldn't pull it off or anything. Which, I as I talk about it, I'm like, oh, I might be pleasantly surprised with his performance. But yeah, it's more of just my first reaction when I see him. It's like, oh, I don't see a bad guy, or I don't see, someone who can maybe be menacing or terrorizing. But again, you'll never know until you find out. Hey, the Brits are really good at that, by the way, being villains. So, I might have to cut him some slack.
That's true. I mean, I think he's a talented actor. I mean, I've seen him in the Doctor Who. Obviously, he was good as kind of a lower grade asshole on The Crown. Again, he played the king consort, Prince, whatever his name is. I want to say Philip. And he was a jerk. Now, there is like a level above when you go from like being a jerk to your wife and your kids a bit to being a guy who like goes around stabbing folks from the dragon back and
Hmm.
stuff. It's a level up, but I'm not mad at it. I'm not. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. I think he could pull it off nicely, and I'm okay with it. I also will say there were a lot of people on Twitter like saying he's not handsome enough
Oh
for the
no.
role, and that I didn't like. Like that seemed inappropriate to me. Just like that's not really what the role is. I mean, the role is like you're passionate, you're powerful, you're possessed of a certain verve, but
Yeah.
all the folk, and again, it's just some, it's not everybody, but like all the folks saying that he's not good looking enough, I thought was missing the point and maybe a bit indecorous.
Yeah, I don't know the story, so I can't speak to everything about that character. But yeah, I don't.
He's not
If
factual.
being ridiculously good looking or something like that isn't a part of his character description, I'm not really sure how that fits. And I mean, at the end of the day, we're all beautiful on the inside, so that's what really matters if we're
And on
gonna
the
think
outside, so I mean, look, are we gonna act like Matt Smith isn't an attractive man? Like, are we gonna do that? Are we gonna like lie to ourselves and the world and say that? I don't think we have to.
he's one of those like unconventionally, kind of like a Mads Mikkelsen type. Like, well, if you look at him this way, or Rufus
Matt
Sewell
Mickelson.
as well. We are all unique on this planet.
Rufus Sewell. Rufus Sewell is a good-looking guy. Okay, I mean, so we'll have a discussion later. Matt Mickelson, yeah, he's a little creepy looking, but see, no, I'm doing it. Like, I get it. I get the instinct to kind of go at the looks and talk about it, but I do think there's more to the role than that. I'm looking
That's
forward to it.
besides the point.
We also got Emma D'Arcy, not sure how to say that, as Rhaenyra Targaryen, an extremely important part of this story. So I don't know much about her at all, Emma D'Arcy. Apparently she's been in some like EastEnder, other stuff. She's younger. This is the Targaryen princess who is kind of on one side of the Dance of the Dragons, the war that's going to rage throughout this whole show. Daemon, Matt Smith is her uncle. They're in a relationship. Of course they are. It's a Targaryen thing. That'll be a good time. She's maybe like the main character of the show. She's wants the throne. She's very insistent on it. She's very take no prisoners. Very I'm going to get it, and I don't want. No one's going to stand in my way about it. Willful, fierce, powerful, intelligent, beautiful, all those great things. It's a good character, and I don't really know much about the actress, so all I can say is good luck.
Yeah, same here.
All right, pretty much. If any of you have opinions on Matt Smith or Emma D'Arcy, anybody else on there, feel free to let us know, and we'll get back at you. Finally, we got Olivia Cooke, who is a little bit more well-known as Alicent Hightower. She's kind of the person on the other side. I've explained this enough times now that I feel like maybe you could say it back to me, but I'll do it one more time. The Dance of the Dragons is Rhaenyra's father, the king, Viserys Targaryen, dies. And then Rhaenyra, his daughter, is his heir, or at least that's what she thinks. And she claims her throne, like, it's my throne, I'm his heir, I'm the king's heir, and the king died. But then Alicent Hightower, Olivia Cooke's character, is the king's second wife after Rhaenyra's mother dies. Innocently, by the way. It's not like a murder thing or anything. Just like, it happens sometimes, time travel, whatever. And she wants her son, her younger son, by the king, Aegon II, to be the king. So it's basically Rhaenyra Targaryen versus her half-brother. And really, Alicent's kind of the power behind the throne in that way. So that's like the basic conflict. And we have three of the big players here. Again, Olivia Cooke looks the part very nicely. Alicent Hightower. Basically, but what's that I mean? Like, she's brunette. It's basically all we got there so far. Another great character, though. Like, she's a royal schemer. She's a kind of, plays the courtly games, kind of like a Marjorie-ish type, but a little meaner.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, I'm excited. And it is nice to finally start to have some faces to put to these names as well.
Very much so.
That'll help, at least for me.
We got some comments, by the way. Hey, Jen. Good to see you. Lost my badge. Is that the badge that you got for... More information on the badge. Was that from the WiC Club? I'm sure we can get you more of that, Jen. Just let me know specifically what you lost, and I am sure we can replenish it. And if we can't, I'm sorry in advance. But yeah, it looks like a good cast so far. I mean, and there are parts of me that are a little hesitant about it. I'm thinking why are Rhaenyra and Alicent so young looking? Because they're a little older in the show.
Okay, I was gonna ask about it. I was like, they look young, and not to be like I know everything, but talking about Alicent Hightower, you said is the second wife.
She's a lot younger. It's one of those like May December things, but she's still old enough to have like a son, like a teenage son.
Yeah,
and
that's
Olivia Cooke is like in her late 20s. I mean, it is possible that because this story does span quite a few. It's possible they're going to like start in the early going, and then work up to later things and replace them or something. But then again, like Matt Smith is Daemon right out of the gate. which I'm not sure about that. It's also possible they could do the thing where they like flash back. That's possible too, which I hope they don't. I'm kind of getting tired of that device being used. Or maybe they're just going to have them like start out playing younger and then play older as it goes on. You could do that. I mean, actually, The Crown itself, like Matt Smith and everyone on that show, who played Claire Foy played the Queen, right? And she like took her from she like became queen at like 22 or whatever it was, and then took her through like late 30s at the end of that season. So that can happen because the show does span some years. It's basically like there's a whole lot that happens before the war, like 20 years of history, and then the war itself is like 3 years of craziness. So they'll have to manage that, but I'm looking forward to seeing how they'll do it. And again, too easy. Although you're right, it does give me a little bit of pause because, like, I hope you know what you're doing. But until I know more, I'm going to just assume the best.
Oh yeah, it'd be interesting to see where we drop it on the action, like where in the timeline we start.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you could do flashbacks on this because it's. I mean, I hesitate to say it because I really don't like. There's been a lot of shows recently, like The Witcher and The Stand, we'll talk about a little later, where they do the thing where like they start in the middle and like flashback, and I'm like, please don't do that. I just don't like the story. But I mean, there are some times when that's okay because like it's the action is all here, but there's stuff that happened back here that you do have to like get familiar with to understand it, but you don't need to like start there because it would be really boring for like a full season. It's not completely easy, but it's fine. By the way, hello, Ianifa. Good to meet you. You got any opinions on any of the casting? Let us know. I'll also mention it's interesting that the director lineup, how many years does the story span? Well, the war itself is, I think, 3 years. And then there's like events that set it up going back like at least like 20 or so. Like they kind of, Alicent and Rhaenyra, they don't just like there's a long buildup of them kind of growing to dislike each other and having this kind of great enmity that explodes into war. You have like relationships that Rhaenyra is in, like Kristen Cole, the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, she's with for a while, and she dumps him, and then what might be the reason he switches to the other side and fights for Alicent. It's a whole thing. There's King Viserys has a reign, like he reigns as king for a while, and he's like kind of a weakish kind of a friendlier guy, but then the people who try to see him are more fiery. So there is a lot of backstory, and I'm not sure where they'll start it or how far back they'll go, but they're going to need to explain something. I liked Game of Thrones' policy, though, of basically no flashbacks ever. I really did like that a lot. Like, they committed to just, if there's something you need to know, we'll talk about it. And we're just going to tell it straightforward. So I admire that, and I wish more folk, because I feel like flashbacks are like a crutch sometimes for people.
Maybe so. I don't think I am tired of the use of flashback. I don't think I have too many arguments against it, but if you think it would make this a stronger show, then I can support that for sure.
You might need them for this particular one, but we'll see. Also, I'll note that interestingly, they revealed the director lineup. We got Game of Thrones guy Miguel Sapochnik. He's a great one. He did like the Battle of the Bastards. He's like the Game of Thrones director to go to. Claire Kiln movies. Geeta Patel was a Witcher director, and Greg Yaitanos, I think, made the Dune show for Sci-Fi back in the day. One interesting note is that there are 4 directors there. 2 of them are women, which is officially means House of the Dragon already has more female directors than Game of Thrones did in its entire runtime.
Wow.
It had 1. There was 1 for the director on Game of Thrones. And I mean, and I'm pretty sure that's purposeful, right? Like, it got flack for that later in its year. So I imagine they're like, we have to get more women behind the camera if we're going to have this show.
Yeah, well, good for them for finally keeping up.
Keep it up. A lot changed during Game of Thrones run, man. It was,
that's true.
It spanned 8 years of a changing TV landscape. Anyway, and there's more to talk about. There's like other casting rumors that are going around, but that's what we know for sure. And, they say it's going to be taken off in about a few months shooting. So we will have more updates for you. I have no doubt. as Jen says, I like flashback mainly if it's fitting for the story, which I agree with completely. Yeah, if it works, I'm great with it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've watched too many shows recently where they're just like playing with time for no good reason, and it's starting to
Yeah.
irritate me. I hope
I
that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I like it when it's used very strategically, especially maybe like pull off a surprise or, you're finding out that like this is such and such character or this is that huge reveal that everyone's been
Sure.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem with that. And by the way, if you'd like to hear our ramblings in podcast form, we are available on iTunes, Google Play, wherever podcasts are available. All right, so that's House of the Dragon. Definitely good stuff, exciting stuff. Looking forward to seeing what happens with it. Okay, like before that, I think the day before that, Disney had this giant investor conference where they revealed approximately 30 kajillion new shows and movies coming to Disney Plus, coming to movie theaters. We're not going to go over all of them, but this was some big stuff. I thought it was worth going over the highlights.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll kick us off here, and I'd like to hear your guys' opinions on this too. So they promised 10 more Star Wars shows and 10 more Marvel shows over the next few years. Few years.
Yeah.
And we're getting stuff like on the Marvel side, like WandaVision, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, Ms. Marvel, Hawkeye, She-Hulk, Moon Knight, Secret Invasion, Ironheart, Armor Wars. And then on Star Wars, we're getting an Ahsoka Tano show, a show called Rangers of the New Republic, which I think is about like the guys who pulled Mando over, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
It's like it's their story. The Acolyte, whatever that is, a show about Lando Calrissian. We got a show called Visions, a show called Droid Story. And this is already on top of like a show about Cassian Andor, a show about Obi-Wan Kenobi, which will star Hayden Christensen as Darth Vader back in it. We got The Bad Batch, and of course, more of The Mandalorian. Patty Jenkins is making a Rogue Squadron movie about flying, shoot, 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 and Taika Waititi's doing something too. Mia, this was a lot of news. Did anything stand out to you from this
Yeah.
avalanche of content?
Yeah. Why don't we get on that Hayden Christensen news first? Because I thought that was
That's
really big.
yeah, that's pretty interesting. By the
Yeah.
way, some
So,
comments I just didn't. Sorry, go ahead.
all right. Yeah. So this series is an interesting series. So it takes place 10 years gosh, after episode 3. So this is kind of like after after he has his, the battle dual fates on Mustafar and Anakin goes up in flames and he's Darth Vader now. So it's kind of like we're in between, episode 3 and 4 and seeing, how the Empire has grown in 10 years. So that should be really interesting because we haven't seen Hayden Christensen as like Darth Vader. There was an end scene in episode 3, and then they do have, a little bit of Clone Wars or I think Rebels, but that's not really Hayden Christensen. It's not his voice. So this is going to be awesome to see the
Right.
two back together again. And in some capacity, because still I think there's a gap between when they see each other in episode 3 and in episode 4. Like, when
Sure.
Obi-Wan Kenobi ages up about 25 years.
Well, so Kevin points out something that I think will be a sticking point. He was terrible as Anakin. Like, and I'm sure that's debatable, Kevin. I know lots of folk agree with you. But I mean, part of the thing here is those old movies, the prequels, still have a bad reputation in some quarters. And some quarters have been rehabilitated. But there are still a lot of Star Wars fans who kind of think that that performance was maybe not worth reviving, but others who are really excited. Personally, as someone who like kind of enjoyed Star Wars and never really got like super deep into it, I think this is cool. I think it's cool to bring back that somebody, and I'd also wonder what he might be able to do if he's given
Better
some
material.
better. Gosh, I mean, I'm trying not to say it in a mean way.
No, it's fine. Yeah,
Like
episode 2.
more actor sensitive direction. There we go. I'll do that. Maybe a
Yeah,
more
tiptoeing.
pronounceable script.
Yeah, yeah. I think, with this direction, he can do better. Episode 3, I didn't have a problem with him. Episode 2, I think, was kind of awkward. The script was awkward. The scenes were awkward. So I really hope in some way that this will be a redemption for him. So I'm really excited for that.
Um,
Uh,
Yeah, looking forward to it. By the way, are we joined by a guest? Can't tell.
Not currently. We have a guest lined up.
Sorry.
We'll
Anywho, yeah, I
transition in
mean
a minute.
this also tells you just how committed they are to expanding the Star Wars universe into this like a real universe.
Yeah.
Like that's 10 programs, not counting movies that are coming.
Yeah.
And it was only like just over a year and a half ago, there were 0 Star Wars shows in existence. And in a few years, there will be double digits. I mean, I guess the obvious question here is this overkill or is this giving the people what they want? Do we want a Lando show
Yeah.
and an Obi-Wan show and a Cass Andor show and the Acolyte set 100 years before
Yeah.
and a droid story where C-3PO is getting into misadventures and so on and so forth? Or are we like, please stop? Like we would this once every once in a while is good enough?
Yeah. On paper it sounds like a lot, and I'll bring in the Marvel example too, because they're basically in the
Okay,
same boat.
not on paper. It's also a lot. It's a lot no matter how you slice
No,
it.
no, no. Okay, well, I'll explain because as as we've been talking about this, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's just an avalanche of shows, and it's this and it's that. But as I was watching those trailers, I was just like absolutely so freaked out. I
Hmm.
was like, I was like a simp for Marvel all over again, and I'm like, oh, this is really bad. I still like these things a lot. So it's kind of hard for me to criticize and be like, oh, this is just too much when, at the same time, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for, maybe not every single one of these shows, maybe every single one of these shows. But yeah, from the fans' perspective, at least, I am, 110% ready for this stuff.
Very cool. I mean, yeah, I always feel like I'm saying like I'm worried it's too much, but Disney hasn't really given me much of a reason, at least on the TV side, to be that worried.
Yeah.
So basically, until it starts failing, I'm optimistic about it. And
Yeah.
speaking of Marvel, which is a place where I think pretty much universally they've done great work, even if there are, grouches like me who will wonder about the economics of it all and blah, 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 blah. They have all these shows coming. Which ones or one are you most excited for
Oh my gosh.
of that
Okay, so
giant list I gave?
yeah, at first it was WandaVision, right? We had
Oh yeah,
seen
I'm looking
a
forward to that.
trailer for that before, and we've discussed it. When they debuted that Loki trailer, though, I absolutely lost my mind. I was like, I need this
Really?
today. I think it's coming out in May. I just wasn't, there was something like really, I don't know, really exciting about the trailer. You start off kind of like in Avengers Endgame where you see Loki and he's going off his
Yeah,
new
yeah, that's
timeline
clever.
and you kind of see what they want him to do now that he's escaped. Like Owen Wilson was in the trailer
He is.
as one
So
of the
that tells you they're
characters.
going for some comedy. Like it's not going to be as if we thought it was going to be a serious thing. Like no,
Yeah.
they're going to go for a light touch.
Even he
That
had like a
wonderful
serious.
Marvel in between thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They have that good touch. And I think personally it's like I think Loki's my favorite character like in the whole MCU, so I kind of have that bias
Ooh.
anyway, but I would say compared to like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier trailer, I wasn't like overly impressed with that. I wasn't blown away. It just kind of looked like a buddy cop series. And
Totally buddy comedy.
yeah.
I
And
mean,
yeah.
I like that a lot of them seem to have different tones. Like WandaVision is, off the wall sitcom, whatever it is, sitcom explosion, mind bendy, mind ex blowing up kind of twisty thing. And then Falcon and the Winter Soldier is like a 70s era parallax view spy thriller buddy cop comedy. And then Loki seems to be more of like a time
It's
travel
like a
comedy
heist.
thing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's good that they're not going to give us like the same thing over and over again, which will definitely keep things varied. But can they do that for all 10 shows? That's going to be the question in the long term.
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
feel like the Marvel stuff sits a little easier than the Star Wars stuff. I guess because what we're seeing is basically a TV version of what Marvel already does in comics. I mean, like, this is comics, right? It's like
Yeah.
18,000 titles, all running concurrently, different stories that kind of connect at different points, all with their own tones, different authors. Like, that's what comics are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that hard to transmute it to TV once you have the resources. Whereas Star Wars, like, they kind of had to make it up. Like, I don't know how different the Ahsoka show will be from the Cassian Andor show, will be from the Lando show, will be from so on and so forth. But
Yeah.
it looks like they're making an effort to get these Marvel things feel different, and they have like the source material there for them.
Oh
So
yeah.
I
Yeah.
predict more success for that, but I'm excited for both, if a little preemptively exhausted over how much I might have to watch.
Yeah, as long as they're rolling it out nice and slow. I did say like because coronavirus, like we didn't have any Marvel stuff. So now it's like, you didn't get any Marvel this year, but wait till we slam it on you next year and the years after that, which yeah, we'll see how I feel at, come the end of like maybe 2022, 23.
Yes, when we're old and gray and these things are all
Yeah.
finally out. Anything else from the conference stand out to you? Like, because it wasn't just Marvel and Star Wars, but it was most of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
who wants a Beauty and the Beast show about Gaston and LeFou? Huh? Who's on board for
Oh
that?
man, sign me up. No. I
How
am,
about
let's
Chris
see.
Evans as the real Buzz Lightyear?
Yeah, that was interesting.
I
Not
guess, yeah.
enough to make me be like, oh my goodness, I can't wait. I thought they were done with Toy Story. So the fact that they're not, even though it's a spinoff, I'm like, eh. I was excited about the Princess Tiana thing though, because she hasn't had like a sequel or anything like that. They're gonna give her like a mini series or something. I hope it's just as good as the actual movie. Because when they start doing Disney Channel stuff or Disney XD, it gets a little goofy and all that. But yeah, they've got a full lineup, and I guess I'm
Yeah,
pretty
they
fairly
do.
excited.
How about Disney Plus raising the price by $1?
Yeah,
Snuck that
and
in at the end, didn't you, Disney?
they did. I didn't turn off the presentation. I had on in the background, and then they switched to the other person. She was like, "Oh yeah, and one more thing. It's now $7.99 because we've got all this stuff coming out."
Goodbye.
Yeah,
Like, we waited for the very
which
end for
I
that. We
I
put that in
told
the
you.
boring financial
Yeah,
forecast segment so no one would watch
yeah,
it. Very clever, Disney.
yeah. They really
Pretty fun
buried
show.
that one. That's why I paid my 3 years in advance, so none of that really affects me up until the end of my 3 years is over.
I mean, they've been so successful. I'm sure they can get away with it. It's still, I think, the
Yeah.
lowest thing there. And before we move on to our next and final topic, let's read a couple of comments here that have come in about other topics and the same. Um, Yanifa said about House of the Dragon, 20 years need flashbacks and foreshadowing, which, yeah, I agree with. I'm sure that they will start. They can't start right at the war. That wouldn't. I hope they don't. Anyway, I hope they build up to a bit. You can't be afraid to build up. I'll say that. Like, it's HBO. I'd think they wouldn't, but there are some shows that just like they think if you don't give them an action thing right at the start, like you're not going to watch. I just hope they have the confidence to let it build and then explode in the first season. Game of Thrones was great because it knew it had Bran finding royal siblings having sex and they're getting pushed out a window to end the premiere. It's like, oh, we can end on that. That's gonna hook them.
Yeah.
And it might be a little hard to find that hook, but they can do it, and they don't need to resort to dumb time wonky stuff. I also got Kevin saying, okay, the worst casting was them hiring Walder Frey's daughter to play Rhaenyra Targaryen. Did she play Walder Frey's daughter? Emma Darcy? I actually didn't know that. I'll look that up a little later. And finally, a comment right into our next topic. Jen says, I cannot wait to see this new stand. I've seen the series and read the big, thick book. Someone else has read the big, thick book is Natalie Zamora, who is going to join us talk about The Stand, coming tomorrow to CBS All Access,
Ooh.
an adaptation of Stephen King's iconic 1978 book about a plague that wipes out over 99% of the population, which feels awfully trenchant right about now. Natalie, you and I have watched the first 4 episodes I think they gave us. So I'll just, by the way, Natalie, who are you and what do you do here at Fanside?
Hey everyone, my name is Natalie Zamora and I'm the managing editor for the entertainment division of Fansided. So I'm excited to be here. And yes, I watched the first 3 episodes, not the fourth one yet. And I will say, I think I want to like it more than I do so far.
I'm very much with you. I
Yeah.
know where you're coming from. Okay, first, I want to bring up an obvious observation.
Yeah.
when I was watching this and I was seeing scenes of like people overcrowding hospitals and wearing masks and like prisons getting infected with this virus, okay, I was physically stressed out like watching this and just, like not being able to shut off the very obvious associations. Was that just me, or were you feeling some of that too?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely like the overcrowded hospitals, like you said. And it's weird
Mhm.
because I'm like torn. Like part of me wants, like, I see the potential for the show to be like more horror and more dark. But at the same time, if they do that, it would be like tone deaf in this
Mm.
climate.
I
So, like,
know.
it's too real. I wish this came out like last year or something like that, because it has potential to be like really upsetting and really dark, and I don't think it is so far. But yeah, at the same time, we don't really need that right now. So
I mean, there was part of me that was like, maybe they shouldn't show this right now, just because. I mean, and I didn't know that I was going to feel that way. I mean, we've all been watching the news. We've all lived 2020, and just I didn't realize how directly that would tap into my being uncomfortable, but it definitely did. I mean, we can't talk specifics. We can talk in general.
mm.
There were a couple of parts that spooked me. Thinking of the second episode with uh, Frank Underwood's little adventure that I won't say much about. But you were not been too scared by this so far?
Not so far, but I'm definitely not someone who scares easily, so that might just be
Hmm.
me. I think that it has like some spooky undertones with,
Yeah.
one character. Not gonna give any spoilers, but there.
I
So
mean,
yeah, we can
we
say
can talk.
Alexander
I think a bit
Skarsgård.
about like it is a 42-year-old book.
Right,
Um,
right.
Alexander Skarsgård plays kind of the big evil man, Randall Flagg, which I think is pretty good. He's like a quiet, menacing presence, not like overdoing it too much. I like him.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of Eric Northman in True Blood, like the same kind of like he's like supposed to be like sexy and like drawing you in, but he's also like kind of evil. I think Randall Flagg is way more evil, but I get the same vibe.
Because you're reading the book right now. Like, how does it compare, do you think, to the book? Like, I guess, A, did you enjoy the book? And B, is the series kind of living up to what you read?
So I'm about 500 pages into the book right now, which has taken me
It's a big one.
weeks. Yeah, it's taken me weeks. And I will tell you, the first episode went past where I am, like right in the beginning, because they changed like the way the timeline is. I
Yeah, I
think that's
told
like
you.
it's like the biggest change I'd noticed from the book to the show is that the book is just like totally linear, like it goes in order, but then the show is mostly flashbacks. So I like the linear storytelling better just because there's so many characters that they have to introduce that I think doing the flashbacks is a little bit confusing. And the way that it starts, like the stakes are not that high because
Yes.
they're like the people are okay. I'm not trying not to spoil it, but like the stakes aren't as high because you're not going with them throughout the journey to start with. You just see it through flashbacks. So
Yeah, like kind of who's gonna survive the journey or
yeah,
who's not because like they start. I mean, I was telling you this. This thing it starts in the middle of the story kind of, and then goes back.
yeah,
Um,
Mm.
and I agree with you. I like the second I found that out, I was like, why? Like, why would you do this? Like, this has one of Stephen King's kind of best starts to a book. I think he's done, and he's written a lot of books.
mhm.
Um, and it's a strong beginning. Like, we're all gonna die, which again has the other problem of, but now we have to watch this now.
Yeah.
I guess the show is kind of it's just not a good show for the time for the show to be coming out, no matter what it is. But
I know.
I do wish I I I I I think better for my immersion and my enjoyment. I wish they had just done it straightforward. Like I went back and watched like the opening to the '94
Oh.
version with Gary Sinise and Molly Ringwald. And the opening is so good. It has the soldier like who spreads the disease, like running into his like kind of on the base home, grabbing his wife and kids, and we gotta go. And then like driving off, and then you just go inside the base and everyone's dead. And it's like, oh, I immediately get it. Something bad happened. He's trying to get away. But here it's like they start way in the middle. They're already kind of in their little civilizational enclave. And then like the guy the guy who's trying to get away like drives a car into a light pole at one point. And I'm like, is that supposed to be the guy? Is that him? Is he the one trying away? Yeah, I just didn't see the point. Like the showrunner was saying like, oh, I did it because you know what? This show isn't really about a pandemic. It's about good and evil. I'm like, dude, it's about a pandemic. Okay, I'm sorry. I know you wish it wasn't, but
yeah, trying to make up for the fact. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing is though, like it's such a good story and they have a handful of really great actors. Like so far there have been a few really great performances. So I think it's going to be tough to completely screw it up. I don't think it's going to end up being super bad or anything like that. Like I would still recommend the episodes I've watched, but it had way more potential, at least so far.
I think we have to pause to read some comments, by the way, because they're disappearing.
Oh, no. Yeah, they're flying.
Jen is very much into Alexander Skarsgård as Randall Flagg, and in general, I'm getting, which is great. Stan was his best book, says Kevin Cryan. As Jen says, moon spells run. Yes, it does indeed. Moon spells most everything when you get to that guy. And I agree with you, by the way. I like a lot of the actors, and I am into it. Like in 4 episodes, I want to see what happens next. Like the first episode was kind of like a bit of a to me, but the second one had me. And I really did like, I don't know his name, but the mean prison guard from Orange is the New Black as Nick Andros's companion, disabled companion. He was very kind of likable. And the show is starting to ramp up by episode 4. I want to watch more, but I agree with you. It does. I just don't get the decision to do it this way. It seems like you're kind of cutting yourself off at the knees.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with you. I know you had told me that you thought the second and third episode, and probably, I guess, now the fourth, were better than the first. And I agree. The first one, I was like, damn, like, I didn't really like that, but I'm going to keep watching more because obviously I still, I'm super into it. But yeah, I think the timelines really did throw me off. And then it's hard to say, like, what is really important and what's not. Like, I think as someone who isn't reading the book would just be like, what is going on? You just shoved so much information into my face.
So Mia, as an outside perspective, here in our discussion, does this make you want to watch the series, avoid the series?
You know, I'm in the middle ground. The last thing that Natalie said sounds so typical Stephen King. My dad reads a lot of the Stephen King books, so he tells me about it. And he's like, Stephen King will just go on for pages describing something that has no use, or you're just kind of like, get to the point. And so I feel like that's your job as a director or the show creator is to, you know, take all that junk and just condense it down into, you know, the best stuff. So if they are doing that, that's a little questionable to me. And then it's the whole criticism you guys have about the sequence of the storytelling is also a little concerning to me, because you're right. You want to be able to follow the action in an exciting way. And if it's not building up in that way, you know, it's like, what's the point? Why are we here? Even if it is kind of an intriguing story. So yeah, the pandemic storyline does have me a little freaked out as well. So maybe I'll be able to.
I wouldn't blame you. It sounds like Jen's going to watch it, definitely. I mean, it reminded me of The Witcher a little bit. I don't know if you see that, where there was another show where they were just like, why don't we like tell 3 stories different in time, all next to other, and not tell you what's going on? I'm like, why? Why are you trying? Don't you want us to watch it and like get it? Don't you want that? Why do you do this to yourself and your story is what I feel like. But to be fair, this isn't nearly as bad as that. I'm going to keep watching. I'm curious. I like it. I just want to put out a general plea to any filmmakers who happen to be watching. Just please tell your story start to finish. Like, it shouldn't be that hard. Like, exceptions for maybe very stuff. And as I've just been informed, the first episode written and directed by Josh Boone, who directed the New Mutants.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you, Josh Boone. I still like you. even if you are trying to hurt my brain with time wildness. Right, Natalie, any other thoughts on The Stand before it premieres tomorrow on CBS All Access?
Definitely check it out. Like I said, the story and the acting is worth checking out. So I still recommend it.
Yeah, I do too. I am liking it. I just like to complain more.
Yeah.
And finally, me and Natalie you both watched the last episode of The Mandalorian, The Believer, right? Yeah, that's what it was called.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Starring Bill Burr as comic relief.
Makes me feel, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we finally saw the guy Mando with his helmet off for a long period of time.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Apparently he gets under there and trims his mustache.
That's right, with his, Mando tweezers. But yeah, this was an exciting episode because they always kind of take you to someplace different. You're going to do something exciting. This one, when it was building up, I was kind of like, all right, where are we going with this? I liked Bill Burr's character Mayfield because he was really great in the season 1, like, prisoner episode. And so bringing him back, I was thinking about this. I was like, I feel like we kind of almost had that episode where you can talk things through, or at least Mayfield was trying to get Mando to talk things through. Like, what do you believe in? Why are you doing this? What are your motives?
It was like a brick wall, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a great classic TV pairing, like pair a motor mouth with someone who never talks at all.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong, and they did not go wrong.
Yeah, I think it made Mando question, everything he knows, and I was like, this is really like this. In this series, he's seen 2 Mandalorians take their helmets off and kind of Cobb Vanth until he found out that was a whole sham. Yeah. But, his whole world is being turned upside down. The Empire is still running rampant and stuff like that. And Baby Yoda's missing, or Grogu, or, some people yelled in the Facebook comments a couple weeks ago because I still said Baby Yoda. And then some other people were like, but the episode just aired and we don't want to spoil it. And I was like, I'm just going to stay out of this.
It's hard to shake a nickname once you have it, but we'll see if they can manage. How about you, Natalie? What did you think of this one?
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought, I'm so sad that it's almost over, but I thought, it was really interesting just to see his inner struggle, Mandalorian's inner struggle, and he was called out, just basically like, why are you doing this? And you'll break the rules if it's convenient for you, or if it's whatever, if it's to save Grogu. And I was like, damn, you're right. Like, I thought it was a really good, I think, just character development for Mando.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's interesting that, the innovation of the show was to have a character where you never saw his face at all. And, like, I'm sure there are a lot of people who would say, or, like, producers who would say, like, how will we know what he's feeling? Like, we can't have that. We'll never get to know him. And they've done a really good job of having him go through growth, even though we literally never see the things that we humans are, like, designed to look at to know how you're feeling, which is pretty impressive, I think. They have had him go on a journey. And I liked that scene where they were sitting down with the
commander or whatever
guy,
he was.
Who, by the way, played the Night King on Game of Thrones.
Right? His name was really familiar.
He kind of gave them his opinion on, well, the ends justify the means, the Empire's for the good, everything for the greater good, and it was very creepy, and I kind of got why Bill Burr shot him. So yeah, I'd agree. A very, like, not the most explosive episode, but definitely one to remember for how it pushes not just the plot, but the characters forward, and really isn't what the show is about.
Yeah, so we've got this Friday is the season finale, which, like Natalie said, it's like, how did we get here? Yeah. And we still have to see, like, is a Jedi gonna come and save the child? Are they gonna, like, I really don't know if the whole save Baby Yoda thing is gonna be successful by the end. It could be, though, because in the last season they kind of had, like, a resolution, with they thought they defeated Moff Gideon, they thought everyone was free, and then to an extent they were. So I might actually enjoy something where you have a resolution, but like a tiny little plot thread where it's like, but wait, there will be more. It could be the Jedi finally coming for the child.
I sort of hope, because like a lot of this season in retrospect seems like a series of backdoor pilots for other Star Wars shows, like Rangers of the New Republic, the
What gives you that idea?
A working brain. I sort of hope that for the finale that they stick to like the original cast and just have it be a more Mandalorian focused one, because we sort of had our setup party. I want to kind of use the pieces they've had, but I agree that, I mean, I like that I'm not sure that they're going to rescue Baby Yoda Grogu child, because that would be the obvious thing to do. But this show has swerved a couple of times, and it'd be bold of them to do it again. So whatever happens, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. The next week they announced they're gonna do another Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian, where they go behind the scenes and they show you all that stuff. So nice little Christmas gift.
Indeed. And we have plenty of other TV to watch after that. We got The Stand, we got The Expanse just aired, so there's plenty to keep us occupied while we go into the Christmas break. Natalie, thanks for coming by Take the Black Live.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, The Stand.
The Stand. Stand up. And we'll be back here next week, Wednesday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on the Winter Screen Facebook page. Talk about more TV, movies, fantasy, sci-fi, whatever should come up. Thanks for watching, everybody out there, for commenting. We'll see you in a week's time. Bye-bye.
Bye.